Joining me now is Angus Ross, appointed Director of Programming in February 2012 at Channel 7, and is responsible for the commissioning and acquisitions of all entertainment content across Seven West Media's suite of channels: 7, 7 2, 7 Mate, 7 Flicks, and 7 Plus. It's a big portfolio. Angus Ross, thanks for joining me.
Nice to be here, Aaron. Thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming. You've been pestering me on this for quite some time, and I finally relented. So here I am.
And there's a lesson learned. Pestering does work after a while. All right. I want to go right back. I'm guessing when you were 10 years old, your future thought career path was not necessarily head of programming at Channel 7. As you were wrapping high school, what career was in the back of your mind? I mean, you did a Bachelor of Business in Marketing, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when I was at university, I wanted to go into advertising back then. But look, I'd always been quite a voracious consumer of TV and movies across the 1970s and the 1980s when I was growing up, and I was always very interested in US TV ratings and schedules, and Australian TV ratings and schedules. I mean, that sounds pretty nerdy when I say it out loud, but it took me, a few years post university to eventually find my way into television. But yeah, back in the day, I thought I wanted to go into advertising. So sort of that's why I did the Bachelor of Business in Marketing.
So what was your first professional job and how did you get into that?
Look, well, I really owe my first break to a woman called Carolyn McFarlane. She used to read the news on 9 in Adelaide back in the sort of later 70s, early 80s. And after meeting her through friends of my family, she sort of mentored me out of a bit of a post-university slump and helped me to get a gig at the South Australian Film Corporation, where I was working to promote South Australia as a filming location. Right. So I did that for a short period of time, and then I moved to a marketing role at Channel 9 in Adelaide after that.
All right. So prior to 7, you also worked as a consultant for television research group Audience Development Australia. What did that involve? And was that I suppose, into commercial television?
Yeah, it really was. Dave Castron, who is the owner of Audience Development, he plucked me out of Adelaide, and together we worked for most of the networks, and we were doing ratings analysis, pilot testing, and also we were developing the personality Q scores. So I got to meet a lot of the programmers and various heads of production across all the networks. Back in the day, it was a pretty busy time for me there. It was a cranking business, and a number of programming people who are working in TV today did stints at Audience Development after I departed in '99.
All right. So how did the opportunity come up at 7, and what was your first role there?
Well, I felt I needed a change after a couple of years at ADA, and a marketing role came up at 7 that I saw advertised. So I applied for that, and Peter Janetsky, who was running marketing at 7 at the time, interviewed me, but then he offered up a more senior role looking after all the programming research, which is where I would work for Chris O'Mara, who was the program director at the time. Then when Tim Warner and John Stevens took over programming and production, they must have liked the cut of my jib, because they decided I'd be mentored by Steve-O into the scheduling and acquisitions role. So really I owe those guys and David Leckie a lot for the opportunities that they gave me. They trusted me and backed me. And I also worked very closely with the late Brad Lyons for a very long period. And, there were a lot of larger than life personalities across the 7 exec team back then, including our current CEO, James Warburton. We had a very, very good run for a long time. But in that sort of company with all those big personalities, you certainly can't afford to be any sort of shrinking violet. Really have to stand up for yourself amongst those sort of people.
Well, you obviously work with a team like all those people that you've just said for quite a period of time at Seven before getting the top job. Um, what were the strong takeout lessons from the teams that guide your thinking today?
Yeah, look, as I said, they were a great group of people to work with and learn from. I think, particularly with, from Steve-O, I think he really taught me to chase down every rating share point across every day part and, really understand your audience. They're not your inner city mates. He always used to crap on about, and really that, they taught me how to sell a show to an audience. So those are probably the key things I took away from them, and they're pretty good. I think planks to take you forward.
Well, let's talk about Seven as it is now. James Warburton has come in with a new strategy, and a lot of old formats like MKR were rested. Can you tell us more about that new strategy?
Yeah, look, here at Seven, we're working to what we believe is a very clear plan, and we've got a highly skilled and motivated exec team carrying out a plan to transform the company. When you look at our company, the bricks in the wall, we've got a very, very good baseline, I think. At Seven, we've got the dominant news brand across all day parts, with dominant summer sport, dominant winter sport. AFL's just killing it at the moment. We've got home and away, better homes. The building blocks, have always been there for us for quite some time. In terms of our 7:30 p.m. content strategy, when James arrived, it was really no secret that a number of our Seven studio formats were tired, and there was nothing new coming down the internal pipe to replace those formats. The creation of your own format IP through something like Seven Studios, it's a very high risk and painful process that requires heavy investment. And after the initial success of brands like MKR and House Rules, it just wasn't delivering for us.
Yeah.
And one thing that people don't understand, and I can be very clear on this, is that the money you earn from a successful format from overseas sales, it's nothing versus the money you can earn from an extra rating SharePoint and turning that into advertising revenue. So we made a decision that we're out of the program development business, and we've now got the freedom and the budget to commission what we want to feed that 7:30 p.m. stripped entertainment schedule. And that strategy is now completely externally focused, an externally focused commissioning strategy where we're choosing proven international formats. Now, clearly, not all of them will work, but it's certainly less risky than our previous strategy. So if you look at last year, we've recommissioned 3 of our new formats, being Big Brother, Farmer Wants a Wife, and SAS Australia. And when we look at kind of where we are with this new content approach, we're in year 2 of a 3-year plan to completely rebuild our schedule. So when you look at our schedule this year versus 2019, outside of Australia's Got Talent, the schedule's 100% new. So I haven't seen a schedule rebuild happen this fast anywhere before, but it was something very necessary that we had to do. So we are doing it with much haste.
Well, I guess with maths out of the way, Seven is doing really well. But even outside of Big Brother, I mean, you've mentioned these AFL, Home and Away, even The Chase, even your US imports like 911 and The Good Doctor are holding their own. So is it fair to say the strategy is working?
Look, we've won the last 4 weeks, and we'll win this week as well, I believe. So that'll be 5 weeks for us versus 9 weeks for Nine after their very successful Q1. We've still got a lot of catching up to do after Q1, much like we did last year. And you remember at the end of 2020, it actually ended up being bloody close for the year. With our schedule for the remainder of the year, I'm confident it's going to be, again, very close and a tight race to the finish. But year to date, clearly we've got more work to do on Q1. Given what happened this year, it's an issue. But look, things like AFL very strong, Big Brother strong, Home and Away is having a real purple patch in terms of the ratings at the moment, and it's also so important for us in that streaming environment on 7 Plus as well.
Well, I'll get back to Q1 in a moment, but in those shows I mentioned, The Chase, Larry Emder is coming in. There's been a few articles about the positivity and reception to Larry. Can you tell us how filming is going and when the Larry episodes are likely to air?
Look, from all reports, it's going really well. Larry's just a total pro. And in terms of those Larry episodes, I think you'd have to say, somewhere around the Olympics seems as good a place as any to launch those episodes.
I gather the plan is to play out every single episode of the Andrew O'Keefe run and then just make a fresh start with Larry. Is that the plan?
Yeah, look, that's always been the plan, despite various press reports to the contrary. It's always been our plan.
All right. So before we look ahead, let's go back for a moment about that Q1. Nine had a delayed Australian Open and therefore an extended maths period. And you started the year off differently, obviously without My Kitchen Rules. Holy Moly was in there. A lot of great reviews, but perhaps the episodes were too long on too many nights a week. What was your take on Holy Moly?
Look, it launched very strongly, obviously. And, across the series, it improved our performance significantly versus My Kitchen Rules at the same time last year, particularly in the demos. But, it faded faster than we'd hoped. We really loved the production, had no issues with that. I didn't think the episodes were actually too long, but, perhaps the multi-night strategy maybe was a bit much, given, a bit of the sameness probably in terms of the holes being used and that sort of thing. But in terms of the quality of the production, we were very happy with it. But yeah, just faded a bit faster than we'd hoped.
So do you think we'll see Holy Moly in 2022 in a perhaps revised format?
Look, the show's very expensive, and to make it financially viable, we need to have those overseas countries that want to come in and use and use our set to come in and shoot off the back of those folks. And look, unfortunately, with the border situation, I can't see that happening anytime soon. But when it does, it's certainly something I think that we would consider again if we can get the right promo hook for it to bring it back. How's it going to be different? Those sorts of things. So it's definitely still on our radar, and we're talking to Eureka about it pretty regularly. But it is border dependent, as as a number of shows are.
Fair enough. Next up was Ultimate Tag. Now, networks are very cautious about saying negative things about their own shows. Are you prepared in this case to say that it was just not a great show?
Look, I think from the scheduling of that show, you can pretty much see we knew what we had. We're trying to make the best of what was going to be an inevitably bad situation. And we moved on quickly, and probably the less said about the experience, the better. But I think it was unreasonable to think that an underperforming US format could be fixed for this marketplace, despite the best intentions of people involved. But yeah, I think you can clearly see we knew what we had in the end.
Well, let's go from underperforming to very well performing. Dancing with the Stars was next, and that was definitely a runaway success. Was it hard to get the old gang back together, or did it all fall into place easily?
Look, these things are never easy to organise, and this was a real race, because we only commissioned the show in December, and we were very firm with that nostalgic All Stars vision that we wanted. And some of the participants in the show certainly took some convincing on that vision. But our own team, led by Andrew Backwell, and then it was a Warner Brothers and BBC co-production. They all worked their asses off to make that happen, and we were stoked with the result when we sent it out onto the battlefield.
So what was the strategy behind doing the All Stars version and doing it pre-recorded and as a 2-week event?
Yeah. Look, when the Australian Open moved, we knew we had to make some moves. We wanted to make sure that Big Brother launched in cleaner air, away from those final weeks of MAFS. It was clear MAFS was going to run across Easter. To do that, we needed a strippable show that would counter program MAFS, and we needed a show that would appeal to an older audience to counter program MAFS. With dancing, we knew we couldn't just roll out same old dancing. We needed to reimagine the show somewhat. It's been cancelled. The regular version's been cancelled twice in this market before, like a number of other shows. So the nostalgic All Stars version, using the original players, was the promo hook we thought we could work. Again, we needed it to be stripped, so we needed the show to be pre-recorded. And also, again, just with the danger of COVID interrupting production, live just wasn't an option for us. So, yeah, pre-recorded All Stars ticked a number of boxes that we thought would give the show, the best chance of making a comeback in this market.
Well, I'm pretty sure you know I'm going to ask this question. Are we going to see Dancing with the Stars back in 2022 in either an All Stars version or just a normal version? And if it did come back, would you like to see the original gang back together again, if that's possible?
Look, that clearly that version resonated. I'd like to see it back, but with these things, like I said before, it's never easy to get together, and a number of planets that have to align to make sure that all happened. But yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it come back. I think it did a very good job for us this year.
All right, so more success. Big Brother, genuinely, simply addictive. You must be happy with what's going out. Last year was great, but just some of those small learning lessons have been formulated better this year, and the audience gets more of the housemates, and there's less emphasis on the challenges. How do you feel the show's going?
Look, we're very happy with it. I mean, there's some key measures I use to judge whether a show's a success or not, and a lot of it comes down to basic maths around the audience delivery, which for some reason a lot of commentators struggle to understand. So if I look through that checklist, is it holding audience better year on year than Lego and MasterChef? Yes, it is. Is the gap closer versus those shows than last year? Yes, it is. Does it have much bigger streaming shows than both those, but much bigger streaming numbers than both those shows? Yes, it does. So, and then is our sales department happy with it? Yes, they are. So on those measures, it's a big success in my mind. There was some story that came out a few weeks ago that Seven was unhappy with the casting. But look, those sort of critiques are coming from people who wish they were making the content decisions rather than the people who are making the decisions. Because my team, they're bloody delighted with it. And Pete Newman and Amelia Fisk from Endemol Shine, they feel it's one of the strongest reality casts that they've ever assembled. And look so I just go back to the performance year on year versus its competitors. And I think things are going very well for this show. We've commissioned, Big Brother VIP for the end of the year, and it'll be back again next year. So we have every confidence in this show and what it delivers for us.
Well, Big Brother was obviously on 10 and then later on 9, and the format kind of died, even though it was still popular and running in the US. How did 7 come to acquire it in the first place?
When Mark Fennessy was at Endemol Shine, he'd been pitching it for a while, and when James joined the organisation and the new externally focused commissioning strategy, that gave us the opportunity to commission the show, but it wasn't a straightforward commission. And Andrew Backwell, who now works with me, he left a bit of a poison pill in the old contract for the show where Nine last had it. They had a matching right in terms of our bid. So we had several weeks of a very nervous wait in the lead up to our upfronts, when the clock was ticking down as to whether Nine would match it, and then Big Brother wouldn't have been an option for us. But thankfully they thankfully they didn't, and here we are in the middle of season 2. So it worked out well for us, but it was a nervous time.
So the million dollar question is, and a lot of people ask this, why the format change? Why not keep the show live and go down the way of how the show was previously known?
Yes. The diehard original fans are very vocal on this,
They
and
are.
get it. But if we'd gone with a live show in 2020, we wouldn't have had a show due to the COVID shutdown. So our schedule would have been even more disrupted than it was. And even me, I don't think I would have had enough cat shows to cover that one in the library, and they would have tired of that pretty quickly. But I think I've said this before. The live version had been cancelled twice in this marketplace, so we needed to look at how could we make the show different if we brought it back. And Endemol Shine presented a reimagined version that we believed in, and it features the sort of more layered and faster paced storytelling that we think this new generation of younger viewers respond to. And as I say, we're in season 2. We've got VIP coming, and we've got season 3 coming. So it's working, and I don't think we're going to change something that's working. You're going to take lessons out of every season, and we're taking lessons out of this one. And I think there's some other things we can do to potentially expand the show. I'm not talking episode numbers. I'm just talking about other things that we'll look into. But I just think, look at what's happening in Melbourne as we speak. It's just not an option to go back to live at the moment, and this version is working for us, so we're sticking with it.
So obviously Big Brother on at the moment. So I guess the next question is, what do you have up your sleeve for the second half, which obviously was your stronger point last year?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very strong for us again this year. After Big Brother, we've got Farmer Wants a Wife, which will take us up to the Olympics. Farmer was our biggest entertainment show in 2020, and we're very positive on this new series. Out of the Olympics, we'll be launching The Voice. Then we've got AGT, SAS Australia still to come, and then Big Brother VIP at the end of the year. In terms of drama, we're launching RFDS out of the Olympics, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to get Australian Gangster away this year as well.
Yeah, I'll ask about that shortly. One of the shows you mentioned in there was The Voice, a show previously screened on Nine. There are a few jibes from Nine about picking up their show to make your schedule successful. And then we hear they're doing Seven's Beauty and the Geek. Is it all just fun comments, or is this for real? Are they trying to puncture the tire in your opposition? Is that a deliberate strategy?
Look, The Voice was a very successful show for Nine, both on broadcast and BVOD. And it was during Nine's results, I think Hugh Marks specifically referenced The Voice as being a show that was too expensive for them. And, they were wavering, and James reached out to David Mott, and with the help of Andrew Backwell, we did a deal very quickly. So it was an opportunistic pickup that, yes, we did feel it would make a big impact on our schedule, because we when you're a programmer, you're always feel like you're a couple of formats short. And we felt it'd make a big impact, and then it would hurt their schedule and force them into some quick commissions, which is what they did. So, I'm not paying too much attention to those sort of jibes flying around. That's part and parcel of it. But we did it because we thought it had a hell of a lot of upside for us, and perhaps some downside for Nine. And time will tell on that, I guess, as we go through this quarter and when we launch The Voice out of the Olympics. We can all sit back and be experts after the fact when that happens.
A show you mentioned a moment ago, Australian Gangster, it feels like that's been on the upfront promos since 1994. Are we ever going to see this show?
Look, it's been held back due to trials that involving some of the people that are featured in the program, and COVID disrupted the timelines of those trials. Again, it's been very, very frustrating, but the latest intel I have is that we can play it this year. So I think you can bank on it coming out of the Olympics somewhere for us. But yeah, a long time coming. And look, those sort of things are very frustrating. You've spent the money, and then when you got to sit on something for 3 years, it's bloody annoying.
Another show you mentioned, SAS Australia, is back with a celebrity edition and I suppose, everyday Australian edition. I believe the celebrity one is filming or has been filmed. How's that going?
Yeah, Celebrity finished a few weeks ago. The punter version we've just completed. That's going to be a special event called Hell Week. But no, it's all gone very well. It's a show we've got big hopes for. Again, this year it was kind of I think it took people by surprise last year, and it was it delivered for us on broadcast and massively on 7+. It was our biggest broadcast show ever on 7+. So it was a great result. But no, it's going really well. So we're very hot on this format.
With the celebrity edition, are there any surprises in there? Ones that people thought might be super good but are struggling, or thought they would do average but are actually doing super well?
Yeah, I think this show always surprises because it's a combination of physical fitness and mental toughness. And it's that mental toughness that, catches people out, particularly, people who might be very physical and considered front runners. For this season, participants knew it wasn't going to be a picnic based on, they'd seen season 1 last year. So we've really had to up the ante on the show this year. And I think,
wow.
The scale of those physical challenges and then those mirror room discussions, I think it's really going to shock people this year, just how intense this show is. But that's what the audience of this show wants and expects, and I think we're really going to deliver for them this year.
Just wanted to move on to the multi-channels, and really just one question. Are there any shows you can mention that are still to come in 2021 on the multi-channels?
Yeah, look, I'll just talk about Seven Mate because Seven Mate's the multi where we do a number of original commissions. So we've got a bunch more shows coming from Paulie Fennick this year, and we've got a show from Rick Donald. It's called Australia's Sexiest Tradie, and it's a bit of a sort of fly on the wall comedy doco about Australia's Sexiest Tradie. That's very, very funny, and I think sits right in right in Seven Mate's sweet spot there. And look, Mate's going to continue to invest in that big character factual programming, like the Outback Truckers sort of stuff, which recently celebrated its 100th episode. So yeah, there'll be more big factual and more big comedy coming for Seven Mate this year.
All right, we're going to jump all over the place now. I've got to ask about My Kitchen Rules. It's obviously been rested this year with Seven taking on the new direction. We spoke about that at the start of the interview. There's already rumors flying that MKR is set for a comeback in 2022. So let's quash the rumors by asking directly, is MKR coming back to Seven?
Well, it's not coming back this year, obviously. We've said, we'd like to revisit the format at some point, but at the moment it feels way too soon. I mean, I don't know where these stories come about, asking production companies to come and pitch or whatever on the show. It's certainly not anywhere in next year's schedule at this point in time. But it is, if we can again reimagine that format and come back with something that we feel could resonate, we'll look at it. It was incredibly successful for us, across a 10-year period. So if you look at what people are commissioning at the moment, there's not, during COVID, the international format pipelines have really dried up. So people go back to look at what's worked in the past, and that was a very big show for us. But it's still very very recent history, and the performance at the start of last year, you don't forget that in a hurry. So it's what can we do to reinvent it? Where can we schedule it? Who's going to be on it? All those sort of questions. But I would suggest it's a ways off, that sort of thinking.
Fair enough. Well, I wanted to move to another topic. Nine has been using a strategy lately about premiering shows on the main channel and then the rest of the episodes to play out on Nine Now to obviously promote that service. Inside Legoland premiered on Nine, but you could only watch the rest of the episodes on Nine Now. And same with the new show Resident Alien, 2 episodes in one night on Nine and the rest on Nine Now. Maybe it's a good promotion for Nine Now, but obviously very frustrating for viewers. I haven't seen Seven copy that plan. Are there benefits to doing this? And is this something Seven is likely to do?
Oh, look, possibly. I wouldn't rule it out in the future. We've run plenty of series where we've made the whole series available after the launch episode, and what we tend to do then is continue to run those subsequent episodes late night on whatever channel it launched on. So I like doing that because I think it's a constant way to remind people that the episodes are all available. You can promo within that show to push them to 7 Plus to consume those if they want to binge them all. But it also caters for those people who may not have access to that and may still be wanting to watch on a weekly basis. I don't think either approach is wrong. I get why they would do that, but no, I wouldn't rule it out in the future. 7 Plus is is becoming increasingly important to us. It was actually the number one commercial streaming service last year. So we're very pleased with that. And, it is going to have, I think going forward, you're going to see more exclusives on 7 Plus. So no, I certainly wouldn't rule out doing that sort of thing in the future.
All righty. When you have a show like Maths on a competing network, do you program to honestly try and beat them, or is it more tactical and you try to go for a completely different audience and almost accept defeat?
No, you have to keep trying to attack to get the best outcome and force some change and improvement. I think if you look back over the years, nine through everything but the kitchen sink at MKR across 10 years, and those juggernaut shows that they take a while to either grind down or they burn out. And look, trust me, it feels much better when you have that juggernaut show. I know I felt much better when we had MKR than being on the receiving end of Maths. But so no, you keep on attacking, whether it's counter programming or if you found some amazing new format that you thought you could have a real crack with. But we need to keep it in perspective, much like what happened last year. That Q1 is just one part of a long year, and it can get very, very close from there. Maths is one show for Nine. So yeah, I mean, we will continue to attack. I guess I better figure out what I'm going to do next year then.
I bet you have a few ideas.
Yeah, got a couple.
Let's talk Australian drama. Gone are the days of 40 weeks worth of episodes of, say, Blue Healers or All Saints. Australian drama is expensive and it's lucky to crack 500,000 viewers. Do you think people are not invested in Australian drama these days, or they prefer to watch when they want to watch it on catch up, or is it that you think the quality is just not there right now?
Well, we still do over 40 weeks of drama a year with Home and Away, which is the number one Australian drama. And that's where we concentrate our investment, given it's important to our 7 p.m. slot, obviously, and very important to 7 Plus, where its numbers are continuing to grow all the time, and it's a great drama gateway into all the other dramas that we offer on 7 Plus. And I'm not really sure it's a quality issue. People have so much choice on it, SVOD, and it's such a vastly different viewing experience. I think it's really hard for any new Aussie drama to, to cut through all that drama clutter and make any noise. And the other thing is they're really vulnerable to these 7:30 stripped reality shows, which a lot of these shows, if they run over a drama that on another channel, most of the time they'll really knock it around. And a lot of these reality shows don't necessarily flow very well into dramas. Some are okay, but a lot of drama is it's driven by 40 plus viewers typically. But I don't think it's a quality issue. It's just hard to get a drama up in amongst all that other drama noise.
Well, let's go to a bit of a learning curve for the listeners. I mean, obviously, you don't want to give away too many industry secrets, but can you tell us the process of how something goes from being an idea to being on television? So let's say an idea for a new Australian drama or even a new reality show comes across your desk. What would happen at that point from reading that to then being on air at, say, 7:30 on whatever night?
Well, if it was I guess nowadays more reality shows come across your desk. But if somebody had a new show, a production company, they'd probably be pitching it to everyone. They've got certain ones that would have been sitting in the catalogue for a while. If you look at something like Beauty and the Geek, clearly Nine just decided to commission that. That wasn't really being pitched around and had been on the shelf for some time. But if it's a new hot format, I guess they'd pitch it to everyone. If you believe in it and you've got a slot and you've got the budget, you'd be talking further. And then in this market, they'd probably just ring all our competitors and say Seven's interested and try and start a bidding war. That's probably that's what happens most of the time. And to be honest, all three commercial networks they tend to chase the same thing. So if there's a new idea that's and you believe completely in the idea, or even if it's premiered strongly overseas, we'll all generally be after it, and then it's about who puts forward the most compelling deal to the production company, and from there, if you secure it, you'll be looking at who's going to produce it, where you're going to shoot it, all those production things, and there'll be a timeline based on when you wish to schedule that show. So it's pretty much as as simple as that. Dramas can be a bit different because there might be an idea, but it might require further development, particularly script development, to get things to a stage. And in the past we've often invested in script development on dramas. So it's different depending on what the genre is. But production companies, they love a good bidding war.
So what about overseas acquisition? I'm gathering it would be the same answer. So if there's a new talent show that no one's ever heard of, it's called World's Best Singers, and it's currently airing in the UK, and a production company like Endemol Shine has the format. What would happen then? Just pitch it to Seven and then shop it around?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it'll be the same sort of process. I would think, that's if everyone's interested, it's happy days for the production company.
All right, I want to ask about ratings. Before, years gone by, it was easy. With 1.2 million, that's a success. Now you get a show like Love Island that rates pretty poorly overnight, but has a huge engagement, good demos, and catch up. Is there a really big analysis now that takes place these days as to what makes a show worthy of being a success or failure?
Well, for us, it's a pretty simple analysis. It's basically the cost of the show versus overnight ratings plus consolidated plus streaming and the revenue written into that show as a result of those numbers and any premium integration and therefore is it something that you'd go again? It's kind of that simple when you're working within an organization. It's a television network. It's a very simple analysis. It'll give you a pretty quick answer as to whether you're going to recommission a show or not.
Well, James Walden's put out the idea there to do 7-day ratings, gone are the overnights, I guess. I gather that's to get a holistic number about an audience of the show. Can you explain the thinking about providing a 7-day ratings report as opposed to overnights?
We just think it's stupid to put out the lowest possible number for a show each day. It's this situation where we seem to be measuring ourselves into oblivion, versus an industry like radio that still relies on wonderful diaries and the accuracy of those. So that it's as simple as that. We each day we put and when if you're just putting out metro numbers, you're putting a lower figure out again versus a national number. COVID has delayed the introduction of VOZ with OzTam, which we do hope will provide a more holistic view of the world. But we're just trying to point out the idiocy of putting out a show's lowest possible number, and it's as simple as that.
All right, a whole new tangent. I wanted to do a what could have been question. Has there been any shows you looked at, passed on, and then they became a big elsewhere? I'm thinking, for example, 7 or 9 may have passed on the Masked Singer or something. Is there some examples that went on to become bigger hits and you were pitched?
Now you're just trying to make me cry, Aaron. There's plenty of those sorts of examples. I mean, you take the Masked Singer, we bid on that. Pretty sure 9 bid on it. 10 bid the most. That's what happened there. Or 10 did a more attractive deal. Ninja Warrior was something that 7 walked right up to the starting line on, and talked ourselves out of. I mean, I think there'd be various sliding door moments for all networks across the years. I remember this is ages ago now, but we owned Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares when it first came out. It was being run at I think we were running at 9:30 somewhere, and it did okay. But a member of the team wasn't keen on the show or Gordon Ramsay, and therefore subsequent season wasn't picked up. 9 picked it up, ran it at 7:30, and it became a bloody juggernaut. And it was like, oh, shit. And I remember back in the day, they'd run the same episode, like one week to the next, just turn it around, and it'd still rate the same. It was quite extraordinary. So everyone's had those sort of nightmare situations or shows that just kind of people have said, oh, that'll never work, and they pop. I always used to take great pleasure in back when overseas dramas used to do huge numbers, formulating the campaigns for those shows to really make them pop, or picking up a show that was on the open market, like Downton Abbey was on the open market, and because traditionally those UK dramas tended to skew very old. No one was really interested in it, and we picked it up, and we did this. I guess you call it the four quadrant style campaign, and we did. We synced a current music track to a period show, and we got a massive roll up. Even younger people, those early seasons of Downton Abbey, and it was something that because it was sitting there and nobody wanted. We weren't paying a huge amount of money for it, so you love getting cost effective wins in this game to balance the the high investment and high cost of Australian made programming. So, but no, there's been plenty of ones that got away. Everyone's got nightmare stories about that.
Yeah, I still remember. Obviously, Downton Abbey was big for 7. I think Sunday nights at 8:30. It was huge. A viewer type question, one for the viewers. The annoyance of the viewer is pulling shows before they end their run. All 3 commercial networks have a list this year and every year. 7 does too, especially with the multi channels. In terms of having 4 channels late slots, weekend multi-channel slots. How come we're still in the pattern of not playing out shows? Now, I will premise to say that outside of Obdocs on the main channel, for Seven has actually played out most things. But for the people that hate it, why would a network show something at 8:30 and then 9 months later show the rest of the episodes at midnight on a multi-channel? If that was the plan, then why not screen them at midnight immediately to play them out?
Yeah, well, Aaron, you and I have been having very lively arguments about this for a number of a number of years. All I can do is speak for the main channel here, and I think, as you said, I think you'll find we have played out, all our dramas and anything serialized. But on factual stuff that's not serialized and tends to be slot filler for a period of time, and you're still paying good money for this stuff, so we might run a couple of episodes to, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of something like emergency, code red or something. One of those
Ambulance.
ambulance, whatever. And then and particularly where you've got split markets with sport and that sort of thing, they're handy things to use. And you may not play them in another market because you're thinking down the track, I'm going to have the, kind of the flip side of that, and I'll need them there, and they'll have some value. So things that have future value, particularly on the main channel, I just don't want to burn them off, and they're not serialized. So I really don't. I don't see that as an issue. I mean, on the multi-channels, I'd probably need specific examples. So then I'd refer you to the multi-channel program and have the discussion with them. But I think you'll find with dramas we tend to play all of those out. But yeah, split channel sport programming will always mean there's runs of things that may not have played in certain markets. But a lot of the time I just say, even if it's something hasn't played in all markets, make it available on 7+. And those people that are really keen on it can hopefully still consume it there if they want to.
Well, here's a subject that has two camps. What is your view on fast tracking US shows? Now, the positive is that you obviously keep the show relevant and avoid spoilers and keep the viewer happy. But the negative is that the US never aired 22 straight episodes. So, for example, 10 is fast tracking NCIS and Bull, but it's new, repeat, new, repeat, new, repeat. That can be even more frustrating for viewers. So how do you find that balance?
I think you still have to look at shows, overseas shows, on a case-by-case basis. Something like the Good Doctor, we don't see any change in numbers around whether the show's, showing a few months later or showing, the day after, which is where we normally get to. So those established US shows, you don't really see a difference whether they're far away or close to US broadcast. And plus, to your point, our audience is not going to cop preemptions. So having an uninterrupted run is very important to us. I mean, in the US, they get away with showing repeats. You just don't get away with that in this market. But I still think, yeah, case by case, and things of, with some of the loss of power of what these shows, used to do versus what they do now, it's probably a little less relevant. But look, I always live in hope that something's going to pop. I mean, you look at what drama, the US is still driven by drama, and the UK, when you look at those Line of Duty numbers, what that's done recently. I mean, drama's still massive. We're a bit of a peculiar market here in Australia in that we're completely driven by stripped reality shows. But we got the Good Doctor to pop. I get that was like 3 or 4 years ago, but people had written US drama off then, and that certainly over delivered. But yeah, I mean, case by case basis, and I'm always hopeful that we'll be able to pick up an overseas drama that can do good numbers for us.
I want to go back to ratings again. Maths obviously stole some glory at the start of the year, but you have Big Brother, Farmer Wants a Wife, SAS, Australia's Got Talent, The Voice, All New Monty. So my question is, can Seven win the year in both total viewers and key demos in 2021?
Absolutely. I believe we can. You look at how close it was last year. Now you compare this year versus last year, we were a lot further behind at this same point last year. You know, as soon as I stopped fighting or believing that thinking we can't do that, I should probably stop showing up for work. You know, every year it's too close to ever give up. And we're sitting in a better position this year already versus last year, which a lot of people don't seem to comprehend, but we are. So no, I think we've got a really good chance, particularly with the shows we have still to come this year.
It feels like television has done everything: cooking, singing, dancing, talent, dating. Do you think we'll ever see any more original formats, or is everything now just a variation of the same thing?
Look, I don't think television will ever lose its ability to surprise. Something always pops up, but I guess you could say that everything is ultimately derivative of something from somewhere. But formats always pop up each year, and I think once those format development pipelines start functioning again, we will see brave new ideas coming to our screens. So no, I'm an eternal optimist there.
Well, not talking about original now, but it's been the year of reboots, especially across America. I would say Nine weren't so successful with rebooting Sea Change, but could we see Blue Healers back or another Seven blast from the past?
Blue Healers will not be returning. There, I'll shut that down.
Well, but is it possible that we might go back to some old shows or reboots in the future?
Oh well, look, I mean, I think when you look at what the local networks have commissioned this year, they are going back to old shows. I mean, we brought back a rebooted version of Dancing with the Stars, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it. And we've discussed MKR, so I wouldn't rule it out. But in terms of a drama like that, no, I can't see that. It's it would. I think it'd be more likely things in the reality space at this point, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, everyone loves to play programmer. I do as well. This should this should have aired after Easter. This should have aired Sunday nights, not Tuesday nights. This should have aired once a week. Everyone is a great programmer, especially in hindsight. I know I've, obviously certainly thrown some of my opinions your way at times, but for the average Joe Blow, what goes into scheduling a show? I mean, what are all the factors you consider?
As they say, programming opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one. I think it's important to sort of point out. I mean, shows just aren't thrown at a wall. Those people across all the networks, they've been involved in this sort of decision making for years, and they live and breathe television ratings and how shows launch and that sort of thing. They're all very skilled at their jobs. So look, I guess it all comes down to the audience you're trying to attract. So for all of us, the big 7:30 p.m. shows are the most important because of the investment around them. They're the most important ones to get right. So you're going to be looking at what's the competition going to be on our competitors. What's the marketing platform? Are school holidays a factor? Are public holidays a factor? Are we going to have momentum leading into the launch of this show? What's the springboard to get it off the deck? So a lot of factors will come into play when launching a big new tent pole and where in the year you do that. For other shows, for 9 o'clock dramas, that sort of thing, you'll be looking at lead-in, that flow from the reality show. As I said, a lot of these reality shows at 7:30, they don't provide excellent lead-ins to 9 o'clock or 8:30 dramas. People often come in just to watch that 7:30 p.m. show. So a lot of factors will go into those 9 o'clock shows, depending on how the show skews. US drama versus UK drama. Or is it a some sort of another reality show or factual show for 9 o'clock? So there's a lot of questions get asked about every slot that you're looking at.
Well, also thank you there for the promo. I got that arsehole phrase that we can use for the promo for the podcast.
That's an oldie but a goodie. I certainly cannot take credit for that. I've just ripped that off from somebody else.
All right. Final question, Angus. Director of Network Programming. When the network is riding a massive high like it did post 2004 for like 15 years in a row, the champagne is popping, everyone's showing respect and admiration towards yourself and the team. When you have a bump in the road, 2019 or 2020, 7 was completely panned by some sections, and there was huge praise for 9. But the end result was that 7 only lost the network year by literally half a point. But anyway, when this happens, I guess there is negativity and obviously less champagne. So is the life of a network programmer all it's dreamt it could be, or when under pressure, can it really sting?
Look, I think there was a lot of people waiting for 7 to fall over, and that's just tall poppy syndrome for you, and that happens everywhere. And I've said before, there are people that constantly hate us and are waiting there to jump on us, but that just serves as motivation for the team here to do better. But you talk about the champagne when we were leading. I wish there was a lot more of it that happened during that period. Actually, we got marked very hard internally, even when we were doing well. It was often never seen as good enough, and it was a very tough environment that took quite a bit of resilience to get through. I mean, if you're someone whose feelings were easily hurt, you wouldn't have lasted long in that sort of environment. You need to keep your stress and the pressure in check, and you just need to remain calm. And you always got to be reassuring other people in the organisation of the programming plan, and you got to shut down panic when it happens. When things don't work. I mean, I've got my equivalents of the other networks. I've the utmost respect for, because there's a long line of people externally and internally who think they can do it better. And often that comes with the benefit of the 901 ratings hindsight. But the decision making around scheduling, commissioning, all those sort of things, it's never as simple as it might appear to an outsider looking in. There are a lot of machinations within a television network that people don't see and don't understand. But look, in the end, if you're the programmer, win, lose or draw, you have to own it every morning. And the phrase is never truer in television about success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. And I can't. When a show fails, does anybody ever put their hand up saying, I contributed to that failure? I've never heard a production company saying, putting their hand up and owning a failure. They kind of move on, but that's the gig. I mean, look, you're talking about stress and things. In the end, we're not saving lives here. We're not frontline health workers doing anything worthy like that. We're creating entertainment. And we're at the team at 7. We're having a good time here at 7 at the moment. There's a good vibe pumping through the place. We can see progress happening. But I've talked about that schedule plan. We're in year 2 of a 3-year plan to rebuild the schedule with really exciting new projects. We're having a good time. We feel like things are turning around.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Angus, I really appreciate your honesty here today, and I love learning more about you as an individual and how it works behind the scenes. The programming and development job is the one every viewer wants, every viewer plays, especially in hindsight. but it's one of the most pressure cooker jobs going around, and so many elements rely on decisions that you make. I do want to wish Seven the best for the rest of 2021. I genuinely mean that. You don't do these interviews too often, so I appreciate it. Obviously, persistence pays in my case. So thank you very much, Angus.
Thank you, Aaron, for having me, and best of luck to you too for the remainder of the year. Talk to you soon, mate.
All right. Director of Network Programming at Channel 7, Angus Ross there. So many insights. Awesome.